lesson, and I think it still was at that really high evaluative level because they had to judge these figures and create arguments and back it up with evidence. So.
Gotcha. So what were some successes? I noticed that there was like a very high level of student engagement that I saw, like the conversations that students were having about like guilty, not guilty, like this is the evidence we're going to use. They seemed really invested in the activity, and there was like a good amount of J factor in the room. Any other successes that you noticed?
I think like I've really tried to move towards where at least like once a week, instead of just like in an informal discussion, kids are actually presenting in some way. So like they did presentations on individual enlightenment thinkers a couple weeks ago. You know, now they were kind of like lawyers or the prosecutors in defense. And so I think like where there's still room for growth is like I definitely want to put an emphasis on public speaking this year, just in like more, you know, life skills and like leadership skills. That I don't know if we necessarily put a lot of weight in, even though we know that they're valuable and important, but like thinking about if that is something that we notice that our kids struggle with, or if that is something that we know our kids need to be able to do to advocate for themselves, then we got to be putting them in a position to practice those skills as well. So I think there's growth there, but I'm excited about like kind of turning the classroom over to like their kind of the epistemic authority in some ways when they're doing these kind of presentations, or they're speaking to the rest of the class by standing up in the front of that more formal setting, if that makes sense.
So when they're doing presentations, are they doing them mostly in groups?
Typically.
Yeah.
So that way, like in their teams, you know, a person might be handling certain tasks, right? And then they like have to divvy up who's handling what slides or what's handling part of the presentation. So like those are kind of new in a lot of ways, because I haven't really like formally gone through those as like priorities for a class period. So I'm still figuring out. I think like now that we've had a couple presentations in the last couple of weeks, I'm starting to see where those gaps are. And so I can think like that's going to help me move towards like a standardized CFS that we can kind of just have and go back to like kind of like all of the annotation guidelines, right? Like we'll continuously just come back to that and it becomes a norm.
So you're thinking about maybe creating a CFS for these partner projects?
Yes, definitely.
I love that. Like, I think that that could be something that's really powerful, and you could also, again, like have like a visual anchor of the room, because I totally, like, I get the amount of value that there is in like having kids work together, because this is a lot of what they're gonna have to be doing in college, right? And they need those skills, but it's just how do we keep it from like always turning into the situation where like one kid's doing most of the work and the other kid's kind of freeloading. So I really like this idea of like, if this is something that you're going to continue to do, because it sounds like you're trying to do this like weekly.
Yeah, usually once a week or once every other week.
Okay.
Just so they're getting continuous repetition with it.
Okay.
So I've kind of moved toward this like, we're really emphasizing the skills. Like I feel like where 2021 is probably about 2 or 3 months ahead of where 2020 was last year, based upon the writing already. And that's just kind of like my takeaways from success with Crescendo last year and implementing some of those things on a more, you know, obviously sustainable level, because you can't do that all year long. But then also like, I recognize that there needs to kind of be a pendulum swing of like some more creative, unorthodox type lessons where kids are not just, I know like our kids value routine and like they value like knowing what the expectations are, but I think like having them kind of work outside the box and like our typical CFS framework around, you know, an LEQ or a DBQ is also valuable too. And so that they're just kind of like, it doesn't feel monotonous to them, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. No, I totally understand. So then let's say, like if we're going through this lens of like coming up with criteria for success for partner projects and presentations, in a perfect, and I'm gonna put this all in Whetstone so that you'll have it, like in your estimation, like when kids are working perfectly together and harmoniously putting together one of these projects, putting together one of these presentations, what are some things that you would wanna see, you wanna hear? Like, what is some of the work that needs to be getting done if it's on paper? Like, what would that look like to have like really successful partner work or group work where everybody's held accountable to the same amount of thinking?
I think, you know, it comes with me, like I recognize that this is like a little bit more of that proactive planning part, right? Like where the students are going to be the ones executing it, and it's not so much like teacher facilitated and led as much. So it has to be like me thinking through like, what are maybe, if, you know, one of the problems right now is like the 2 different presentations have been different like sizes of groups, right? So like we haven't normed on like each time it's going to be 3 people in a group, and these are the 3 roles, so you need to divvy those up like this person did time manager, task manager, and then like,
Mhm.
you know, maybe like the materials organizer, right?
Mhm.
So I haven't like come up with some sort of standardized way of like rolling it out where
Mhm.
those roles are already clearly defined, and like we've now experienced what those roles are, so the kids can kind of fit into that.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I have to think about what are the roles that need to be taking place each time, because if it's a partner, you know, thing, you're only gonna have two people,
Mhm.
are you gonna really divvy up what the roles are there?
Mhm.
Or like thinking through, like, yesterday I had it broken up by tasks, and so I had the kids in the groups figure out, okay, this person's gonna take on task one while these two people take on task two.
Okay.
Which was like, they were like equal in weight, but the thoroughness for task two required like a little more people
Mhm.
working on that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I think, you know, like, I'm definitely learning a lot as I like roll these out. I think, you know, what it needs to feel like is obviously it needs to be very collaborative, and so I think I want to also give them like, maybe like a checklist of like questions they could be asking, or like checklists of like things that they need to be doing during that time, so
Mhm.
that's kind of rooted in like, when I'm up front with this group, if there's a group in the back corner that's kind of lost, they have something they can refer to before they just sit there and wait for me to come to them. you
Yeah,
know?
so it would be, so the criteria for success would be, like, if you're gonna, I like this idea of giving them like a checklist of things that they should be doing, so like all tasks on individual checklist are complete,
Yeah.
something like that, okay.
Yeah, so I think like, maybe not necessarily moving towards a role thing like I was initially saying, but maybe there's like a checklist, and so like, we proactively take, like I said, 2 minutes, like in your group, discuss who's taking out these 10 tasks, divvying up like 3 each, right?
Okay.
And then, you know, obviously one person would take on 4, but,
Yeah,
so that way, like, they've already acknowledged what they're gonna do, and then
Uh-huh.
I come by and I check, and then that way that gives me something like, that can basically be my ammo in a lot of ways, right? Like, Omar, you said that you were gonna do this task, whereas I see that your other partners are on their last task and you're still on your first, so
Yeah.
clearly, you know, either you're stuck, or you're just not working as
Mhm.
urgently as these other kids, and so that would like kind of root it in, like,
Mhm.
what the kids have already agreed to do, you know? And that can be kind of like my ammo check.
so it's kinda like being focused and engaged
Yeah, exactly.
throughout the work process.
Yeah. Because while I think like yesterday, there wasn't a kid that took it off per se,
Mhm.
obviously there's variations in how much each kid's contributing to their group,
Yeah.
right? And so I think like, if there's already this pre-planned, I'm gonna do, you know, X, Y, and Z, you're gonna do A, B, and C, then there's that agreement, and I can see like their names next to it or something like that, like,
Mhm.
okay, you haven't done that one yet, whereas your partner is on your last test, and they're probably gonna end up doing one of your tasks for you, so clearly you haven't done the 30%,
Yeah.
40% that you agreed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So they get it like a task checklist.
Yep.
Tasks on the checklist are divided up equally.
Yep.
Focused and engaged throughout the work process. Task completed within the given time frame.
Mhm.
That's kind of like my summary of everything you
Yeah.
said. Anything else in terms of like what's successful? Because I do feel like, especially for a sophomore walking into a classroom, it's like they don't necessarily know what it should look like and sound like when they're working successfully
Oh, for
in
sure.
a group. Like, they might think that working successfully in a group is I just copied from the smartest person
Yeah.
in the room. And so I think that like going into the kind of, like you said, the life skills, the public speaking, like
Mhm.
these are learning how to function in a group project
Yeah.
is a huge
Oh, yeah.
skill for them moving forward. So I think that coming up with specific parameters, just saying, I always think about my lowest students. Like,
Mhm.
if I can check off every one of these boxes, I know that I've done it right,
Yeah.
is gonna be a real game changer for
Definitely.
them. Okay, so let's see. So we give them checklists, we want all the tasks to be completed,
Mhm.
want them to be divided up equally, focused and engaged throughout the work process, tasks completed within the given time frame. What about anything for like the presentation itself? Do you want them like dividing up the presentation?
Yeah, I think that would also be, you know, as far as, the collaboration piece
Mhm.
prior to the presentation, that would have to be divvied up, and
Yeah.
then, let's say it's a formal PowerPoint or Prezi type
Yeah.
presentation, then they need to divvy up who's taking what slides, and I think maybe like, the presentation role should be a little bit more defined, like, this person would establish like, their thesis, right?
Uh-huh.
And explain like the methodology that they used, or like what they found, whereas this person's gonna explain, this finding, this person's gonna explain this finding,
Mhm.
this person's gonna maybe field questions.
Okay, yeah.
You know, something like that.
I put presentation is distributed equally among all members of the group.
Yeah, and I think like roles defined.
Yeah, okay. Presentation roles are clearly defined. Awesome. I'm like really excited about this. I feel
Yeah,
like
I
this is
am too.
something that could be good for the entire school.
Yeah.
Cause it's a good, cause that's what I'm really interested in. I'm like, there's gotta be a way to figure out how to make kids work together, but
Yeah.
still hold them accountable to thinking. Like, this can't be an impossible task.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think if we could just like get standardized on what it should look like, what it should sound like, that could be really powerful.
Definitely, yeah.
For our kids.
I think like partner work has definitely moved up like to closer to what I wanted.
Mhm.
Like I've done a lot more work this year where students are doing the task on their own, you know, usually like the primary source analysis, and then they're doing like a turn and talk, and that's where the collaboration's coming in, or like the student can explain this is why I'm stuck. And I think also with the new annotation systems that we've been using, the boxing's really helping kids like you know, when I ask a question, okay, so like let's discuss document 2, you get crickets for a second.
Yeah.
I can point back to like, okay, can someone please just tell us what you're doing when you're reading as far as noticing thematic ideas with repeated words and synonyms?
Yeah.
Right? And so now I'm starting to see a lot more hands emerge because of that, like, yeah, I don't quite understand it, but I'm seeing this theme. Okay, now that we've presented the theme, now let's dig in, and then kids have the confidence because they're like, you know, kind of wishy-washy, like I'm not sure, so I don't really want to share out because I don't want to seem unintelligent in front of my classmates or whatever, you know, their insecurity around that. So I think that's really helping. But yeah, like definitely when we move into like groups of 3, 4, 5, that's when things get like a little bit more murky.
Yeah.
Just because like you're saying, it's really easy for 2 or 3 kids to kind of follow the lead of 1 or 2 kids of that group.
Yeah.
And just kind of view like, okay, I'm taking what they've come up with, and therefore I'm getting something out of this activity. Like you said, I don't necessarily think it's like ill intent. It's like
Yeah.
we haven't defined what that should look like yet,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that it's very tricky when you have, because one of the questions that I had yesterday was I was like, there's like a group of 1 and a group of 3 and a group of like 12.
Oh, that was like 2 different groups.
Okay, all right, they're just kind of like weirdly merged. Okay,
To like
yeah, all
fully
right.
split.
Okay, because I was like,
They're each
how
other's
we got
safety
some
blanket
big
back there.
sizes here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I would say that too, definitely. I mean, the bigger the group, the harder it's
Yeah.
gonna be to get them like focused and functioning together. So I think like 2, I probably wouldn't go any bigger than 4.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like after that, everything can just start to break down.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always felt like 2 and 3 were good numbers.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we've got our CFS. When's the next time you're doing like a project presentation?
Probably not until after fall break.
Okay.
We're
Do you
gonna
have a lesson on your scope?
probably not that I've like identified as one of those ones yet. Because right now, so we have, let's see, we have another week of going over the revolutions, then we have fall break, and then we're moving into the industrial revolution. Which we're gonna be doing, not presentations, but some unorthodox like simulations, like we'll do the assembly line as like an activity, we're gonna do, an activity like around Candy about distribution of wealth for, communism versus capitalism. Yeah, I don't necessarily see a presentation day yet. I am trying to like figure out where I can rearrange some things in my scope where, these presentations are more like prepared over the course of a week, while also not like losing some of the other like particular names, you
Yeah.
know? So I don't have one on the schedule yet, but I will
Okay.
let you know as like I start to think about how I'm shaping my
Okay.
3rd unit. Because I definitely want to like have a presentation before semester's ending in for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I can follow up with you on
Okay.
that. And I feel like I feel like a lot of these CFS you could use, it doesn't even have to be a presentation.
Yeah,
Like if
definitely.
you're having kids work together on something, I think that just constant like dividing up of the work and holding all students accountable to participating is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right, so I'll just put some point in the weeks following fall break and I'll follow up to see where we can get an exact date on that. Okay,
Yeah.
and so these CFS, I'll finish typing this all up and you'll get one of those nifty little emails that'll
Love
have
it.
the CFS that we wrote out. Cool. I'm really excited about this action step. Anything, that's all I have. Anything else for today?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, I will get this typed up and sent out to you. Thank you
Perfect.
so much.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate it.
Have a good rest of your Thursday.
Yeah, you too. What are you guys going over today?
Washington's president.